So when we're trying to determine the slope of the line and we're given the graph, it's easier to just use rise over run versus the formula. And you're definitely welcome to use the formula, and we'll see the formula and and how to use it in a little bit. But basically, if you're given a line like this, um, once again, all you have to do is figure out, okay, from this point to this point, if I look at how far it goes up versus how far it goes across, right? Then I can just count out 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So just like we just did, right? So rise is 3, run is 6, so that's 1/2. So that's kind of essentially what you're going to be doing. So it's pretty straightforward, and it's very visual, right? Okay. All right. Now, if we're given 2 points, like if we're given, this point -2, -2, and this other point 4, 1, then that's where this formula comes in. Okay. So if we're given those 2 points, then we want to identify the x and the y. Okay. And notice that we have 2 x's, right? Let me do the x's in blue and the y's in red. So the x's are the 4 and the -2, right? Or the -2 and the 4. So we can call this x1 and we can call this x2, right? So the 1 and the 2, those aren't exponents, those are subscript as opposed to superscript. Exponents are superscript, these are subscript. So when you have subscript values with a variable, that just tells you, that's just a label. It just tells you, okay, this is the first one and this is the second one, right? So we have more than one of them, so we're just using subscript to differentiate between one and the other. Okay, they're both x's, so that's 1 and 2. So that's what we're going to be doing on the bottom, is subtracting our x's, right? Because that's our run. When we subtract our x's, that gives us our run. And then our y's, we have y1 and y2. Okay, so y1 and y2. So so if we subtract our y's, that gives us our rise. Okay, so this is our rise and this is our run. Okay, so so a couple things about this. It doesn't matter which one you pick to be your 1s and which one you pick to be your 2s, just as long as your x1 goes with your y1 and your x2 goes with your y2, right? So you can't make this be y2. If you do that, it'll mess your formula up. It'll be a sign error. Okay, so make sure that you have your 1s with your 1s and your 2s with your 2s. Then you can't go wrong. All right. Even if I were to pick this as my 2s and these as my 1s, I would have still got the right answer. Okay, but generally I just pick the one on the left as my 1s and the ones on the right with my 2s, and then just so I don't have to think about it too much. All right, so now we can plug this into our formula, right? So I'm gonna put it's y2 minus y1, right? So I'm gonna put y2, which is 1, I'll put that in the y2 spot. So I'm gonna put 1 in right here. And then y1 is -2, so we're going to put that -2 in here. So you can see 1 minus, so there's a built-in minus, right? 1 minus -2, right? Let me clean this up a little bit. All right, so this is y1 minus y2. Okay, and so we have a negative negative, of course turns into a positive, and so it turns into 1 plus 2, which is 3, right? And then on the bottom, we have our x2 minus x1, right? So x2, which is 4, and we got that from up there, minus x1, which is -2. Okay, and so that's how we get that there. And notice there's a built-in minus, so we have a minus minus again, or minus a negative, right? That turns into a positive, so we get 4 plus 2, which is 6. So we get 3 over 6, which is 1/2. Okay, so that's the way to find slope if you're given the points. You could also graph it and then just find it visually too. That's always an option. Sometimes you might not have graph paper available, but you're definitely welcome to make your own graph and graph it. So those are two ways to do the same thing. And depending on what you're given, it might be a little easier to do one method or the other, but you're welcome to use either method all the time, right? Or either method whenever you have the option. So let me just go back to the last slide. If you notice that we had the same slope because these are the same points. This is -2, 2, and this is +4, 1, right? So those are the exact same points that we just had for this example. And so this time we found it by just plugging into the formula. The last time we found it by visually identifying the rise and the run. Okay. All right. So let's do some examples. Actually, let me show you some of the visual examples. So these are straight from the book. So this is what you'll have. It says find the slope of each line. So one thing you could do is identify the coordinates of these points and plug them into the formula, right? But probably a little easier just to look at rise and run. So first of all, let's kind of run through here and think about positive or negative slope. So let's look at the odds, okay? So between 1 and 3, are they both positive? Do they both have positive slopes? Are they both negative slopes? Or do they differ, right? And so let's look at number 1. So as I read it from left to right, the slope is going down, right? So that means the slope is negative, right? So I'm going to have a negative slope, right? Or m is going to be less than 0. So when I look at my rise and run, I'm going to make it negative, okay? So here, if we look at number 3, we can see as we read from left to right that it's going up, right? It's increasing. And so if it's increasing or going up from left to right, that means the slope is going to be positive, right? Or m is greater than 0. So when I calculate this slope, I'm going to attribute a positive to it, or I won't put a positive in front, but I'm going to keep it positive. All right. So anyway, so that's one thing to look at. So then for number 1, I'm looking at the rise. So I can just count 1, 2, right? And then I'll look at the run. So it's 1, 2, 3. Okay. So notice that I'm not starting here when I'm counting, right? That's 0. So when you count, make sure you count 1 unit, 2 units, 3 units, right? And the same thing with the vertical. Okay. So rise is 2, run is 3. So my slope, my answer would be use a different color. So my answer would be 2 over 3, right? But remember, we have to take into account the sign of the slope, right? So in this case, we have a negative slope because it's going down. So we have to make sure we put that negative in there. All right. So that's our answer. M equals -2 over 3. So it's that easy, right? Just identifying how far it goes up or down versus how far it goes left or right. Okay, so let's check at number 3. So once again, they give us points. And so we can identify the rise, right, which is 2, and the run, which is 3, right? So same slope, right? Or at least the same rise and run. So 2 over 3. However, this one, remember, has a positive slope. And so we don't necessarily have to put the positive there, but we're not going to put the negative in front, right? We're just going to keep it positive. So that's how you find slope given a graph.